Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the very first recording of TBH, To Be Honest, where we're gonna have some honest conversation. I'm gonna have some amazing guests. And I had to start off this project with my very, very good friend, the great Leslie Lyons.
Hey everybody.
Leslie, I'm so glad to have you here to kick this thing off. As you know, we've been friends for quite a while, share a lot of things in common, have awesome conversations. So looking forward to having another one. Now, I know a lot of persons that will be viewing, maybe know you, maybe don't know you, know some things, don't know all things. So Leslie, who is Leslie?
I don't like this question. If I had to describe myself though, okay, first of all, Leslie Lyons, that's my name. I am 23 years old, recent graduate of NCU, did a major in psychology, minor in music. I've gotten some experience in the last year with media, and I'm enjoying that a lot. Passions, I'm passionate about music, poetry. I love working with young people. And I have to say, most of all, God and ministry, very, very key things to my life. So yeah, that's just general idea of who I am.
All right, dope. So you were born in Jamaica, correct?
Right, born in Jamaica.
Kingston.
Kingston, Jamaica, right.
All right, and I know you moved to Trinidad. What age did you move?
I left Jamaica when I was like 7, going on 8. Like I was a month away from 8 when I left Jamaica.
Okay, wow. So how was that? How was like moving to a new country at that age?
Okay, so tell you the truth, when my parents, were like, yeah, we're leaving, my first reaction was like, oh, we're going somewhere new, cool. I was excited about it. For some reason in my head, I was going somewhere really far, like, I don't know, China or something. And then when we made the move, like day one, I was like, all right, cool, somewhere new. By day 2, I was like, I want to go back home. I think it hit me that I was like away from my friends, away from family members, and it was now like just completely new territory. These people do not sound like we do. They don't act like we do. They look similar, but there's some clear differences. So at that age, it was for a while, if I'm being honest, for maybe a couple months, I was just like, I don't know what's happening here. I don't really want to be here. So yeah, that was just kind of like my initial transition to Trinidad.
What would you say is like the biggest culture difference between there and Jamaica?
Biggest cultural difference? Oh, that's a tough one.
Or maybe like the most difficult to adjust to?
I think I'm gonna go with so there's a heavy racial divide in Trinidad between those who are of Indian descent and those who are of African descent. It's not always like in your face directly, but there are times, a lot of times when it comes up, and particularly during the election season, that's when you see it the most, because it's kind of like you have an Indian party and an African party. Yeah. So during that time, it gets pretty intense. I'll never forget the first time I realized it was a real thing. I was in high school and the elections were going on, and 2 members of the class were going at each other, right? Which happens all the time. But one of them, he was of Indian descent, the other was of African descent. And they went at each other, and then someone made a racial comment. And I kid you not, the entire class got involved in the argument. And it got to a point where for the rest of that term at school, there was like, we had 3 rows, right? There was literally the row of Indian students, a row of African students, and the center was like the mixed kids. So yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that I say would have been a shock. I even heard.
So was it that like they were they chose their seats and they just ended up that way?
No, I mean, okay, when I tell you it changed, I mean the term started with everyone mixed up all
Okay.
over the place, everybody's friends. And then after that argument, right in the middle of that election season,
Uh-huh.
it was split. Like there was a literal split
Uh-huh.
in the class.
Wow.
And I think one of the things that made me realize how big of a difference is too. Here in Jamaica, sometimes we look at people of Indian descent and we call them coolie. And it's just, whatever. Yeah, you can't do that in Trinidad. Like you do not make that mistake because that could get pretty ugly.
So coolie is like an insult for them.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Wow. Which one's the majority? Like which one's more in the country?
I'm not sure, honestly. I'm not sure if there's like a one that's like significantly a larger group than the other.
Got you. Okay. I didn't realize that you moved that young though. That's yeah. Did I tell you about my experience when I moved to Jamaica?
You didn't.
I did. All right, cool. So for those who don't know, I was born in the US. My parents are Jamaican, my whole family is Jamaican, but I was born in the US. And at the age of 6, we moved to Jamaica. So first thing, so my father wanted us to do school in Jamaica. So here's the first I had a few misconceptions about Jamaica. The first thing is I thought that Jamaicans spoke Spanish. Let me explain. So like a couple months before we moved, we knew that we were moving. My father decided to teach us Spanish. So I thought it was in preparation for the move. Right? So I'm like, yo, we're gonna go to Jamaica, we're gonna be speaking Spanish, right? So I'm learning my Spanish and stuff. When I reach Jamaica, I see a woman talking on the phone and she's speaking English. So I'm like, yo, she's bilingual. Like, yo, it's crazy. So that was the first thing. The second thing is I had this dream that when I go to Jamaica, I'm gonna be a shepherd. Like that was my goal. Like because so David was my favorite like Bible character. And so I just envisioned me in Jamaica, like in the fields, just like running around with sheep. The other thing is I thought that Jamaicans, I think there's this like segment on Sesame Street where they had some little Rasta boys in some tie-and-dye shirts, just like running through from the hut through the jungle. So I also thought that's what me and my brother are gonna be. We're gonna have dreads and have tie-and-dye shirts all the time and gonna be running through the jungle. When we reached Jamaica, and we're in the car, the taxi that's kind of where we live in. You know, like some places where you have like the gully, you're looking down on the gully from the road. So I'm looking down there because I was trying to find a zebra and a giraffe and a rhino. I was so convinced that somewhere along this line I'm gonna see some rhinos and some giraffes, and I didn't see them, and I was so disappointed.
Right.
But yeah, and when we reached the house, the first thing that I ate, the first meal that I had was I had breadfruit, I had ackee and saltfish, and it all tasted like garbage to me, like all legit.
Oh no!
Legit. You have to understand, I'm coming from the land of Pop-Tarts and Cheerios and whatever. So like all of that just tasted like garbage, and I couldn't eat it. And the plate fell. I don't know. I don't think it was intentional, but the plate fell and the food. And I was so glad. I was just like, this isn't it. So yeah, it definitely took me a while to adjust. But I'm guessing like Trinidad, I mean, it's still a Caribbean country, so there were the differences, you know.
Yeah. So it wasn't like extremely hard. Because I mean, as I said, it's still the Caribbean, and I think even though the Caribbean islands have differences, there's still a whole lot of similarities.
Right.
In terms of, there's still like some very similar foods. Even if they're prepared differently, they're still very similar. Fruits are there, the sun, the blue sky, the seas, even though Trinidad Sea is debatable, but hey,
Mm.
but yeah, so it wasn't an extremely hard transition. I just think the biggest part of it for me was connecting with people. I think that was it for me, knowing that my friends and family weren't right down the road.
Gotcha. All right, so you did most of your schooling there. You went to university, USC. What were you studying?
Same psychology. I started USC. I did 2 years there, and then my parents. So okay. So here's the thing, right? For a lot of the time that I was in Trinidad, I still felt like I felt very outside-ish. I was kind of constantly reminded that I don't belong there, right? And then I hit university, and USC is a multicultural place, right? So you have like so the entire East Caribbean is there, and then you have like people from one and two other places. I finally think I felt like I belonged somewhere. I enjoyed being at USC, great university. I will boost USC till I die, right? Um, and so I was finally like comfortable. I was good. I had made some friends. They were bomb. And then my parents were like, yeah, so we went back to Jamaica now. I was like, whoa. I was like, wait a minute. I'm finally good here. Y'all just trying to pack up and leave. No. So
Why the move?
A number of things. So a part of the reason why I said that I still felt like I was reminded constantly that I was not from there. Trinidad's immigration is set up a little interesting. And every year we would have to like go to renew like our student permit. For me, my mom, she had to renew her work permit every year. And they would carry us through hell and back to get through that process every single time. And what happened that last time when we made that decision, it was a case where I was now moving away from, I think initially I was under my father's work permit, but now that I was starting university, I had to do my own student permit thing. Mm-hmm. And it was a back and forth thing to the point where I almost had to get deported type of situation. And it wasn't my fault. It was never our fault. It was just them, right? And when I was relaying what was happening to my mom, she was just like, yo, we need to go. These people, they don't want us here. Let's just go. Let's go. Let's just. And so that was a big part of it. Another thing was at the time, around that time, a lot of our family members were kind of dying here in Jamaica. And my parents, I think, felt like, we're away from family. We're not able to be there to support and, help out with things and that kind of thing. So I think those two things were the main reasons why we were like, all right, it's time to come back home. So okay. Yeah, that's kind of what happened. So it was tough for me because I said I just got comfortable, but
right.
Yeah.
All right. So what was the transition like now? You're in Jamaica going to NCU.
Boy. So all right. I used to be home every summer, so I'd come back to Jamaica like every summer while we were in Trinidad, except for the year right before we came back.
Okay.
Every other summer or Christmas, I was here. Mm-hmm. So I was still like rooted in Jamaica. My parents we still spoke patois. I had my friends, and then social media started becoming a thing, so I was pretty connected. But I realized that when I was coming back, it was kind of like starting over for me. Because now I was in a position where, oh wait, I don't really have a lot of friends here. Mm-hmm. All of the people that I really know and have come to love are now in Trinidad.
Right.
And I think it hit harder at that age versus like 7, because at 7 your relationships are like, oh, our favorite color is green, we're friends, Whereas at that age I was now like 18. Yeah, I was 18 when I came back. The relationships were deeper than that.
Right.
So when I came and I went to NCU, I went straight to NCU. I had like a month at home with the people who I would have known initially from like church and stuff, and then go straight to NCU. I didn't know anybody at NCU, which was kind of my goal. Longer story, but I didn't know anybody at NCU.
Your goal was not to know anybody. Want to lay
So, all right,
quiet
so,
and stay off the
so
radar.
growing up,
That plan worked out.
it, it- uh, growing up, I felt like I was always like under my father, my brother's shadow.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people knew my father because he was very involved in ministry and all of that. And then my brother just became popular because I guess people say he's cool or whatever. Um, so I wanted to be somewhere where I know for a fact I'd have my own identity. I wouldn't be Ella Lyon's daughter or Bradford's sister, right? So going to NC was a part of the plan. When I say it, that's what I mean. But it really hit me hard. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, it really hit me hard. I was a very social person, so it didn't take long to meet people and to start building friendships. But it was rough because I was away from the people who I really loved, you know. But I mean, it wasn't hard in terms of like a cultural thing because I'm Jamaican. I know how Jamaica works for the most part. So that part of things, it wasn't that hard to adjust to that kind of thing. So yeah.
All right, compare the two schools for me. Anything that you prefer on either side, anything you dislike on either side.
Okay. USC is my favorite place in the world. For me, NCU, they build character, right? I think USC is, for at least this is my experience, USC has more of a spiritual groundedness for young people. That's what it is. I think it's more geared towards young people, which it should be because it's a university, right? So I think in terms of like spiritual activities, USC was very geared towards youth, whereas NCU I feel like kind of lacked something in that area. Again, USC social wise, and I think I have to kind of make that distinction right there because NCU is a bigger university than USC is. And so I think what happened with USC is that because it was a smaller community, people were able to blend more and mesh more. NCU, because it's bigger, there was less of like a cohesion, I think. And so USC had great school spirit, NCU shaky. I think students didn't really care much about the university at NCU, and it showed in a lot of things. So that's my preference is evident, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything that you prefer at NCU? Wow.
I mean, it's cool up there, because it's in Vanderbilt.
Cool, got it. Apart from comparing the two schools now, what was like the NCU experience like though? Like, how did